Hello and welcome back to Dreamwalker Tarot. My name is Dawn and this is the December reading for Pisces, Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, and Mars. Please go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for post notifications. This month, I'm doing something a little bit differently. I'll be working with the Sibyl's Oracle deck of the Black Doves of Africa. This deck actually functions a little bit differently than traditional Oracle decks, as it has a little bit more of a very tight structure to it. I'm going to try to explain how it works as I kind of work through the reading itself. The deck has 44 cards, 11 cards in each section. The first card is called the core card, which is the black card at the top left of the screen. And that is like basically the major issue that is happening for the particular reading. The projection card is the card that's at the top left, and that is basically kind of explains the justifications and the rationalizations that we have as human beings that block us or prevent us from seeing what the core issue is that's going on. And then on the bottom are two action cards. To the left would be what is called the cool action, which is kind of like the thought process that needs to kind of be put into place to kind of progress into the second action card, which is considered the hot action. And that's like the actual physical activity that needs to be done to kind of work the situation out. And those two cards and the bottom, go together. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the card so we can look at what it is saying for you this month, Pisces. So the cards that came up for the core issue, is death. The card that is the projection, which is what is preventing you from really dealing with the core issue, is the justice card. And the cool action card is questioning, and the hot action card is purity. So just a note, the death card also came up in the Aquarius reading, which I literally just did. And so for some of you, the death that is going to happen or might potentially need to happen or has happened, if this is a good actual physical death, is a person that might have Aquarius in their chart. Or, you might need to kind of cross-reference the reading with Aquarius to kind of get like a deeper understanding, because you guys seem to be, kind of like in a similar boat this month. So again, the death card is like one of those cards, like even in tarot, that nobody likes to see, right? The death card is really a symbolic of endings, of closing things out that no longer serve you, or things that you need to let go. This could be people, this could be relationships, this could be a job, this could be like I said before, a physical death where someone that has passed on. It's like you're unable to process that death, or unable to release that death and move on from that death. Again, Aquarius had the same card in their reading, so you can kind of go over and check that reading out. But I am going to give you a little bit of snippet of what the book actually says about death. So one of the things that the book focuses on is actually ancestral veneration. So our honorable ancestors are the people in the family community who led exemplary lives and were to be consulted about matters of importance and given offerings as required. Deceased relatives were still considered present, even if they were unseen. Ancestor reverence was a part of daily life for all the people of the ancient Mediterranean, and also not just for the ancient Mediterranean region of the world, but also in Africa. There's a lot of places that do ancestral veneration in praise of their recently departed, and also their elevated ancestors as well. And so this is something that you might want to consider if you've never done so before, is developing a relationship with your ancestors and the ones that have passed over. And this is particularly true if you're kind of suffering, like I said, from a physical loss in your life, to kind of develop a relationship with them on the other side. Because the only distance really between you is death, and they're even closer to you than you might, know. Death is usually understood at the end, but this is an unscientific position that we continue to perpetuate because we become emotionally attached to specific forms in specific ways. Most of us have heard that matter cannot be created or destroyed, but that is of little importance when we are grieving that what such a short time ago was a present that suddenly has become the past. So if people know all matter is immortal, then what is the source of our pain and our longing? The source of our pain and longing is whatever we have accepted to be accurate in relationship to time and space. This is why death hurts us so much. Even if we are advanced enough to see the necessity of an apparent ending and do not view it as bad or unfortunate, we will suffer because of our persistence of distance. Our perception of distance. When something or someone we adore is not in the form and space-time we are used to, we are wounded and we long to travel back in time to experience that relatedness again. Do not feel bad about this, but understand that the present is actually where you belong. Be grateful for those times you were with someone or doing something that brought you joy, love, and or understanding. Make peace with any mistakes you make and prove that you have learned from these mistakes by agreeing not to enter through thought patterns that resulted in the choice to do what you did if a similar situation presents itself in the future. Doing this will make you focus on the best aspects of your ever-present experience by permitting the lessons learned to make you a better person. The beauty of your relationship with that person, place, or thing will always be relevant as a continuously beneficent force. The cycle of positivity will be perpetual because long after you have moved on, your ability to extract good from apparent loss will inspire others to do the same, or at minimum, know that it is possible. How many generations could be affected by such an example? If you are experiencing an ending or an apparent loss, don't focus on a new beginning if you're not up to it yet, but instead focus on how much good you have because you had the experience. And when this card comes up, you are asked to really sit with and consider the following questions. Are you focused on how much more you could have received instead of how much you've already received? So this is really just a message to kind of let go of the notion of where you should be, of what you should have, or what you should be doing, and be happy about the things that you have done and the places that you are right now and the things that you are experiencing, because I think focusing on the things that you don't have really is counterintuitive to you, because it's going to put you in a place where you are kind of like anxious because you're focusing on things that are outside of your control or outside of your possession. And it really also could potentially lead to a state of depression because you're kind of mourning things that you don't have. And so thinking about and being grateful for the things that are present in our life and the people that are present in our lives and the people that actually do show up for us is really something to kind of like focus on and be grateful for, because it is a blessing. There are some people that don't have that or don't have the things that we have in our lives and that would love to have them. And so focusing on gratitude is really a good practice to have, because when we focus on what we do have, all the other things tend to fall away, and it gives the opportunity for new things to enter into our lives that we can then be grateful for. Do you believe that you can lose what is truly yours? Has not making peace with your mistakes prevented the best of the experiences from shining through? What did you learn from them? And how can your wisdom practically benefit others? What would you want others to feel and learn from your interaction with them if you were the one who had died or otherwise had to move on? And that question was actually really, really interesting, especially when it came up in the Aquarius reading. It's the notion of a life well lived. And this can be, like I said, when dealing with your recently departed ancestors, when you focus on their life, you're planning for the funeral and everything. There's that moment when everybody talks about that person, and the contributions they made, to the family, to their communities, just overall in their life, like the things that they have done to make people feel good. And so it sometimes it really makes you sit and think about what contributions you are making in this world, the way that you show up. And if you really think about that, are you happy with the way that you show up in this world? Are you happy with the way you represent yourself in this world? If the answer is yes, then girl, boy, keep doing what you're doing. But if it's not, then this is a time to really sit with yourself and figure out ways that you can implement changes into your life so that you're living a life that you will be proud of, and living a life that will bring you into the afterlife with great ease, and prepare you for, ultimately prepare you for the afterlife. Are there fears? Do you have fears related to this ending that have nothing to do with the actual person, place, or thing? So is your fear about death and your fear about letting go of people, of circumstances, of holding grudges against people, does it actually have to do with someone else? Does it have to do with something else? Or does it have to do with you? The core issue is being crowned here by the projection card, which is the Justice card. And again, the projection card is really just the rationalizations, the justifications, the things that we tell ourselves that those things are actually preventing us from seeing what the core issue is. It's basically the comfortable mask of excuses that we place over the truth that if we don't remove them and if we don't work them out, they will eventually cause you unnecessary suffering and unnecessary hardships in your life. One of the things that I noticed about this particular Justice card is that it reminds me of the Egyptian theme of Mat, which is really about balance. And it's also, there is like a idiom that goes along with it that says, may your heart be as light as a feather. And I only know this because it's one of the things that I try to practice in my daily life, is to think about. And this actually goes in relationship to the death card. It's the idea that upon our death, when we cross into the afterlife, our heart is weighed on a scale next to a feather, and the only way that you can proceed forward, I don't know if it's into the next, into a new life, without having to go through any processes of kind of like taking off your old shell or kind of dealing with the karma of your old life, is for your heart to be lighter than a feather, and that is like the measure, right? So that's an interesting idea here, because this is really asking for you to really kind of like weigh out yourself to figure out if your heart is as light as a feather. And that's an issue that is kind of blocking you from seeing death for what it is. I feel like there is like a little bit of weight being carried, like you might be carrying a little bit of weight. There's some things that you need to release. There are definitely some relationships that you need to end. There's also the idea of developing a relationship with your mortal dead to help you balance out your life and to kind of clear out any karmic any karmic imbalances that you might have acquired in this lifetime. Let's look at the book and see what the book says. Yeah, so the court is in the heart. The key symbol here is the Cometans placed a scarab over the heart of the deceased to symbolize resurrection after the judgment of the soul. Oh, okay. And she does talk about Ma'at. Ma'at is the ancient Kemetic Cometian goddess of truth, balance, morality, divine justice, and cosmic order. Everyone has at one time or another felt betrayed by circumstances. When we are disillusioned or disappointed, we often complain that life is not fair and retreat into self-pitying state. It rarely occurs to us that the circumstances and or conditions we attract are in direct alignment with the thought process that preceded and facilitated the manifestation of these events. We never doubt or question the necessity for the existence of natural laws for all things to remain in order, yet somehow we forget that we, as the microcosm, are also subject to universal regulations for the exact same purpose. As a result, we miss opportunities for growth by blaming other people for our fate, our bad luck, a lost charm, anything but taking the time to examine how we may have lost balance. If you get the Justice card in the reading, it is a warning to avoid perpetuating yourself as a victim to yourself or to others. Do not seek pity or revenge at this time, but instead analyze how your choices and decisions contributed to the outcome of the situation. If you go deep enough, you'll recall all the ignored hunches, reservations, or red flags, and they were all there, but you ignored them. So the final two cards are the action cards, and the first one is considered the cool card, which is really about an internal state of mind that you should get into in relationship to the previous two cards, which again was the Death card and the Justice card. The idea that there are two feathers crossed in this imagery for the questioning card is really kind of like bringing two notions of the previous cards, which is there are really some questions in your mind about death, the principles of death, the principles of karma, the principles of inherited karma, and especially not just your own karma, but also the karma of people who have recently transitioned over. There is the idea that you might want to think about, of course, venerating your most recent and your elevated ancestors, but working with your ancestors who are not as elevated, who might be more recent to you that you're aware of, and doing spell work to basically elevate them in the afterlife so that they can be of assistance to you in this current life. Feathers are a symbol of messages with spirit, communication with spirit. It's about truth. It's about balance. It's about writing. It's about ascending to higher levels, and it could also be about traveling. So a lot of this is going to be related to ancestor work on your part, but also preparing yourself to be an ancestor by living that life that can be looked upon, at the end in a really, grateful way. And again, with the heart and the feather, with your heart having to be as light as feather, there's a lot of things that need to be let go on your part, but also to kind of like be cleansed out on like a karmic level. Because some of you might discover that you're at a door, like you've come to an end of something. It's like a cycle. If you keep repeating the same things, you're only going to get the same outcomes. And so this is the opportunity to kind of like let things go, move forward and not repeat the same mistakes. And these could be mistakes that have been passed down within your family structure, or these could just be things that, situations or mistakes that you continue making on your part. In the book, it says that this particular card means to seek answers and don't stop until you are satisfied. If you feel comfortable or afraid to ask questions, remember that your comfort zone is not necessarily the right zone regarding this issue. So this is an upset in your life. You're really at a crossroads. If you look at the card of the feathers themselves on the card, you are at a crossroad. This is the time to make changes in your behavior and your actions, to not make the same mistakes that you've continuously made, or to stop making the same mistakes that your ancestors have made that probably been passed down to you, and try to really kind of set on a new path in this life. And you are definitely be encouraged to seek this guidance with the help of your ancestors, who are your honorable departed, and working with the others to kind of elevate them so that they can assist you in this present life. And this becomes even clearer with the hot action card. And the hot action card is basically, the things that you actually need to do. It's an external response to the situation. And that card that is showing up is purity. And so this is about living a life of purity, moving forward, right? If you haven't been doing so in the past, this is the opportunity to kind of like start fresh. You might want to remove negative energies from around you, negative people, negative situations, to kind of cleanse your space out, kind of working, like I said, again, this is like coming back to working with your ancestors to clearing out your space so that you may be able to receive messages from them, because you might not be able to, because there seems to be like a lot of interference going on. But again, with the Justice card, the Purity card, this is really about getting your karma right, like really kind of like sorting through your karma, but really asking yourself, asking your spirits what it is that you need to be doing. You need to be working with them at all times at this point, right? And so this is what I like about this deck, because this is the opportunity to receive the information, to reflect on what's being said, to realize how it's manifesting itself into your life, to accept your findings, and then to implement the actions, which again, the action is to kind of step into this purity to better your circumstances. Thank you so much for listening to the end. Please like the video, share with a friend who you think could benefit from it, subscribe, and hit the bell for post notifications.